Good morning, everyone. This morning we will be discussing the future of innovation as it relates to media strategies and trends. My name is Lolita Morrow, and I lead the media and entertainment group over at Vox Media. And I'm joined by the data-driven, strategic partnerships focused. Oh yeah, I'm going there. Experienced executive, that is Damon Mercadante. Damon is the VP of Marketing, Streaming Services at Paramount, and we are very happy to have you here today.
Hi, welcome, and good morning, everyone.
All right, so we have slides, we have a video. I possibly might do a song and dance, no promises. But before we jump into that, let's kick things off a little bit with your origin story before we go to this video. How did you find yourself in marketing? And more specifically, what is it about the entertainment industry that keeps you entertained?
Sure. So my background has been primarily consumer internet marketing side, on the buy side and sell side. And what's interesting is worked at large corporations like Paramount and eBay, but also a number of startups and some successful pre-IPO to IPO companies. So a broad spectrum of companies. I ended up on the marketing side simply because it's a great way to connect with consumers, grow the business, and I really get excited about driving revenue.
But what keeps you entertained?
Keeps me entertained. On the Paramount Plus side, 1923, 1883. Outside of the Paramount world, I like watching stand-up comedy on Netflix, Hassan Minaj, Ali Wong, a couple examples there.
I love it. I love it. I am a Paramount fangirl. I have my two favorite shows I'll share. Evil, which I think season 4 is coming up sometime in June, and the new show on Paramount Plus, which is Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. I know we'll speak to that a little bit later. So those are some of the things that kind of keeps me entertained. In your own words, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Paramount and what you do?
Sure. So the way our team is set up, if you think about it, my team is more of an in-house ad agency. So we do most of the digital marketing. We also work with an outside agency that does a number of linear TV buys. And then we also have a partnerships team, which we'll talk about, which is pretty interesting in the streaming space.
All right, so before we really jump into the conversation, we have an amazing video to share. So let's cue it up and take a look at Paramount.
This is our new reality.
This is my legacy.
I'm gonna own this city.
This message is for Jean-Luc Picard.
We got this.
Men kill quick, and I kill much slower. Damn.
So what's next? Me showing up dead?
I wasn't ready to die.
Do you want to start a war out here?
How bad could it get, really? What keeps you up at night?
Things are about to get wild.
All right, let's roll that back. That was fun. No. One time is fine. So today's conversation is about the future of innovation as it relates to media strategy and trends. So let's start off speaking about the evolution of streaming. One thing we know for sure, we came out of a global pandemic, or we're still a little bit in that pandemic. It posed a lot of challenges and opportunities for the entertainment industry and also for streaming services. How did this event change the landscape of marketing for the streaming services?
Sure. And we can maybe pull up that slide.
Yeah.
Next slide. So if you think about it real quick, historically, at the beginning of COVID, everybody was at home. You had kids at home. People were at home looking for entertainment. So the business grew quite rapidly in the last 2 years. We learned that people are willing to pay for premium content. In parallel, we also saw services like Pluto TV where people are looking for free services. Fast forward to today, what we've noticed is this CTV world in entertainment space has really evolved. And you see now walled gardens coming in from Samsung to Amazon and the like, Roku. One other thing that's kind of interesting from the entertainment side, which was unique to this business, which we hadn't seen in the past. I mean, on Showtime, I think you saw it, but for Paramount Plus, we have partners who are now coming to us trying to help differentiate their products. So T-Mobile, Walmart Plus, and even Delta. So a recent announcement is if you're on Delta's airlines, you will soon be able to get free access to Paramount Plus while on the flight.
Cool. Awesome. And clearly, when we think about this, it's caused some consumer trends to adapt as well. What are some of the new trends that you noticed from the consumer, and Is there any particular trend that actually surprised you?
Well, I think that's what's interesting is we found that consumers are willing to pay. They have so many different options. So whether it's pay TV like Paramount Plus, free TV like Pluto, but also UGC on YouTube or TikTok. So what was interesting for us is to really see that people are willing to pay. Conversely, they have lots of choices. So they can choose what they wanted to watch or not. So it's really important for us to create premium content and provide it in unique ways in different genres, from sports to entertainment to drama to comedy, et cetera.
That's great. But not only did the consumer trend change, but also the marketer changed. Marketing changed. Do you have any new practices or strategies that came out of, the pandemic that you implement to this day?
Sure, and you can do the next slide. But what I think is interesting, what we're doing, which is also relevant for any brand marketer who leverages TV and digital video, is, for example, ACR, which is recognizing the content on a TV, or partners like Amazon who are monitoring what you're watching. But when you're looking for incremental reach to linear, that's a great tool to use. When you're sequencing ads, that's another option that's developed just in the last couple of years. And it's really developed because of the growth of the CTV world.
And we can pull up that next slide. I think you were speaking to some of those things.
Yeah. And so from a social video perspective, working with our actors and developing ways to communicate to the world in a different way. So rather than a standard video and movie clip, trying to get actors and actresses to push the shows via social video. And then next, we'll talk about as an experiential opportunity. In fact, it wasn't planned, but we worked with Vox on for Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. Next slide.
Yeah, let's see that next slide.
You want to talk about
this? So I did mention that this was one of my favorite shows. Actually, my 13-year-old son, we watch it. Friday nights are our nights to watch it. He makes me wear something pink. You don't know me, but there's not a lot of pink in my closet, but I absolutely embrace that. So this was an experiential marketing execution between Paramount Plus, Vox Media, and Pop Sugar, where we went to LA, we turned the iconic Mel's Diner, which is in West Hollywood off of Sunset, we turned it into the Frosty Palace. We had the cast there, we had a screening in the parking lot, and talk about a moment where marketing and movement connect. You couldn't have picked a better location. The TMZ bus was stopping by. They were leaning out. They were taking photos. And it was just one of those moments that extend the strong IP of Grease and also the new show, which is the Pink Ladies. So this is just an example of our partnership. And we have many more that we've done and hopefully many more to come.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. It's no secret that marketing and media strategies are always evolving because the landscape is always evolving. So how do you and Paramount continue to remain agile and in the know? So you end up being confident and guiding your team towards really implementing successful strategies in some of these experiential marketing.
Yeah, obviously, we go to events like Brand Marketers. A lot of the things that we do is test and learn. But what comes back to sort of foundational aspects of how do we differentiate ourselves. Premium content, what's different now is we have partnerships like Delta, Walmart Plus, but also in the streaming space, a lot of bundles. So how do we provide more value to the customer?
Yeah, that's great. I think the next slide kind of speaks to innovation. Yeah. Yes, I called it. All right, so, naturally, there's always room for growth. But what are some areas you think the industry as a whole, and also in streaming services, could benefit from or grow from as it relates to innovation?
And so these are just a couple examples. When I think of innovation, there's a writer who wrote a book, it's called The Design of Innovation. And the concept was simply, innovation is not purely incremental. So if you're just making incremental changes and minor optimizations, you're not really innovating. So what we try to look at when you think of the streaming service space from an SVOD streaming service, that was innovative. It was different than what was happening. Free services like Pluto, again, you're like, that's crazy. Why would anyone put a free service out there? So these are examples of some of the innovative things that we're doing, but we're ultimately trying to work with partners who can help us go from, a 10x to 100x difference in the business. But when I think of innovation and personalization is one of the key ones. Working with partners, I think out here, Flash Talking, MediaOcean, just give them a little shout out. We're able to work with some of our sports partners like the NFL or UEFA. We can set the teams and time. So if you think about the NFL, there are games playing all day Sunday. In real time, it decides, what's the right game to show, which teams to show, what time to show, based on where they live. We also have data, of course. We can take examples of someone who's watching Yellowstone and then push e-commerce products such as hats and T-shirts, which, believe it or not, is a big business. So we're trying to leverage data to personalize that experience. So not just in our ads, but also when the consumer comes to our sites. So we want to understand what their genre might be, what their interest might be, and help deliver that content when they land on our page.
Thank you.
From an analytics perspective, numbers are pretty important. Someone had mentioned in an earlier talk about media mix models, think about incrementality, talk about cross-device attribution. Those are interesting. But what I thought was unique is on the video side, and this may be relevant to some of your ads that you run on YouTube. What we found is historically for entertainment, we do movie clips, right? Which is your classic update on what the movie is. But what we found, and YouTube has helped with that, is sometimes it's more natural behind the scenes view of how the movie is being made, or how are actors and actresses interacting while they're on set. And what we found is that that's more of a sort of natural perspective, that people are in the social world. They're used to just seeing themselves naturally versus produced. And so blending those two different options of clips and then more natural, less produced content and video has been really important to us, and the analytics show where that goes. Another area that I think has been interesting for us, everyone has moved from mobile to smartphones to TVs, right, during the pandemic. But I also think that smartphones are obviously coming back as more and more people are going back in the office. A couple years ago, Apple made it harder to do the analytics on iOS. So we're really looking at partners to help us with the optimization within the iOS world. There are companies like Morrow, who's using machine learning to help us understand how to better target and monetize that space.
Awesome. Well, it wouldn't be a true brand innovator conversation if I didn't touch on one important topic, and I think the next slide brings that up. It's AI. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the role that AI might play in those opportunities for growth. And we can, I think, pull up that next slide.
And if it may have fallen off, which is fine.
That's fine.
So ChatGPT, so I'm going to avoid LLM going down that path. Anybody can create content. I think that's more B2B. What I thought were three interesting scenarios of how it might impact entertainment. One was a company here in New York, most of you have probably heard of, is Chalice. A number of you are probably thinking from a brand perspective, how do I improve brand lift on my video campaigns? They're a partner who might be able to help you do that. And so we're working with them. A different company is actually helping us understand what happens in a video and actually doing metadata against that video. So there's so much data across the internet. How can a person actually watch all that video? They can't. So a lot of these an AI company is coming out and doing metadata targeting on those videos. So it quickly scans lots and lots of videos. Phantom's working with them, and what they're actually doing is recognizing all the UGC content on fandom and quickly being able to pull out content that's not appropriate for their brand. So as a marketer, I think you're going to see some AI tools that will help you better understand how your ad might be interacting with the content in that environment and whether you actually want that or not. The last one was, it was just, if you think about text to imagery, right? So as more and more people, even Canva has a text to image solution, AI solution. You can type in what kind of image you want to create based on what's in your mind, which is great. It can be awesome. It can work with your brand. Customers who are really, really excited about your brand can help promote your product and offering in unique ways, the way that they can design and create. On the opposite side, if you have classic customers who are not happy with their brand, there is going to be a scenario where they can create more and more content that might hurt your brand. So while there are going to be solutions that help brands, there are also going to be activities that give consumers more ability to quote unquote hurt your brand.
And even continuing to stay on that topic of the future and innovation, do you project any new or changing trends as to how consumers will use streaming services in the future? I mean, you spoke a little bit to that, but.
Yeah, so as we know, everybody has choices. So it's SVOD, which is paid, free, lots of UGC, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok. What we are seeing, of course, is the advantage of mobile devices, right? So live sports. It's where we ultimately succeed in our business with NFL, with UEFA, and that's when you see spikes of mobile devices. So whether people are, working Uber drivers on the weekends, delivery people, or just at your kids' sports games, or you're out with friends at a bar and you want to watch different live events, that's where we're seeing really drawing on the mobile side. And then different ways that we see is also internationally. How do we take content that's developed quite well and been successful internationally and bring that to the United States or vice versa? So we are based not just, of course, in the US, but we're pulling in content from Europe, Australia, South America, and recreating that in the US.
And it seems that Paramount is definitely on the right track. How do you and your team continue to kind of push that innovation, not only with Paramount, but also like within the industry specifically?
So of course, we want to be leaders within the space, working with partners that come to us with new ideas. It's of course tough. We always want to be legally sensitive with privacy and PII, which is a lot of areas where we look at from data and targeting. But one of the things that we're looking at is from a development perspective, and one of the things I forgot to mention on AI, I'm sure there's going to be a company that's going to come up and say, look, we can develop the best movies in the world based on AI. And there are obviously organizations that are already developing content that can create amazing ads that are repurposed and they're computer-generated individuals. But we do a lot from developing content with underrepresented populations to meet different genre needs and to develop new talent and really develop underrepresented actors, actresses, directors, writers. And I think that's been a big push for Paramount for years.
It's very clear that your team and Paramount have a clear strategy when it comes to, maximizing content, building those positive partnerships, and then also, listening to the consumer. I think we have a couple of minutes, and I wanted to open up the floor for any Q&A or questions that you may have for Damon. Yes, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Hey, my name is Jacob from Social for the Win. So I'm sure you probably saw with, there was a Drake and the Weeknd song that came out that was produced by AI. Have you thought about how user-generated content with AI could help increase relevancy for your brand instead of necessarily something that you might have to shut down or keep in a box?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the true advantages from a positive perspective. How do you allow individuals to take advantage of your IP, which is a big sensitive topic in the entertainment space? So we will, of course, have scenarios where we want them to use our content and leverage our IP. And it's a tough response because it's great when it works. It's not so great when it doesn't work. So we're obviously going to be open to it, but we are going to be sensitive just like any large organization out there.
Thanks.
Thanks. Hi, Jordan Hyman from Nativo. We saw a Yellowstone clip, but no one asked a question about it, so I'll throw it out there. How do you, knowing there's been a ton of content, 1883 and all that, and now that there's sort of a wait for more, how do you think about sort of marketing other shows, other programs on the run up to what's coming next?
Sure. So we have the great advantage of cross promotion. So for TV, Yellowstone viewers who are watching it on their linear channels, we can cross promote Tulsa King, 1923, 1883, but also on our own services. We have a huge library of content, whether it's on our service, Paramount Plus. We will obviously recommend new content to the users while they're there. When they're on Pluto, we also might recommend Paramount Plus to those consumers. And then with these new marketing channels, we're obviously looking for new ways to just make people aware of the service and give them a chance to taste the content. Okay.
Hey, thanks for hopping up here, Brandon Spano, All City Network. You know, one thing I was wondering, when I look at Paramount Plus, at least from afar, it's a really wide approach, and we see Showtime and a lot of national. You know, one thing I wonder from somebody who has local network access like you guys have, if there's any sort of strategy to create deeper, maybe even geo-targeted fast channels for the local marketplaces. Kind of everyone is starting to now lose access to local news coverage and shows.
Sure. So CBS owns a number of local channels depending on the city. We also work with partners who own the other ones. So there's a lot of complexity in the rights to the local content. Our solution today is to have your local CBS show available as a Paramount Plus subscriber. So that's our best way to provide that local content. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not.
Hi, thank you. I'm Leslie from Univision. The first session we had today was what really struck me was how we're not siloing performance marketing. It's very integrated with top of funnel marketing, or I should say consumer journey marketing. Sure. So you're obviously driving to trial and subscription. How do you see that media mix strategy driving awareness, driving consideration, and then bringing users down that funnel?
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. We actually look at the journey as well. We started out very much performance, but recognize the value of brand and how do you do your best to measure from top of the funnel to mid funnel to bottom of the funnel. And we certainly not just, I think she mentioned about media mix models and how they're a bit dated. It takes time to get that information. So we are working with our partners from a perspective of these silos in the connected TV world. So we're monitoring what kind of ads they're seeing at the very high level of the funnel, who's seeing them, where, you know, splitting up different walled garden groups to sort of had cohorts within those groups so there's not cross contamination of the data as much as possible. And, you know, we are looking at both what's the brand awareness, what's the brand lift, but also how do we sequence some of those classic brand ads with more mid-funnel targeting and then furthermore down the path to conversion. So we're actually looking at the whole life journey of that customer, and then post subscription, right? How do you have retention and have a full 360 view of the customer? So I don't know if I answered that, but we're certainly
you did. Thank you.
Doing that. Yeah. And one thing to note, I think I mentioned or maybe not, was really brand lift studies. So historically, the brand lift studies came much further after the campaign. You know, obviously YouTube's a partner that tries to get a quick brand lift study, and there are other partners who are trying to get quick brand lift studies. For us, we have a lead up, preview, and then the campaign. So we're actually getting brand lift studies at each point in time to help us with the creative selection, to help us with that journey.
Hi, I have a question. You mentioned a couple of times that consumers seem really willing to pay for content. As you know, working on the advertiser side, that's obviously something, you know, concerning for us because we want to make sure we're able to. They want to have a positive experience with our ads. We want to make sure we can reach them. So I'm just curious. I know there's a couple of, you know, tiers that are available too. So are you seeing more and more people signing up for the ad-free versions? Like, what is the experience you're seeing on Pluto versus some of the more, you know, limited ads? Just curious the consumer response.
So you should not be concerned. Ads are not going away. It's a big component of our business. Pluto TV is $1 billion business, and it's just all ads. And one of the things in the evolution of pre-COVID versus COVID, which was we highlighted that they're willing to pay, but Pluto of itself and similar fast channels really created the content and the opportunity for ads, right? If everything was in enclosed environment like Netflix historically, which you could not put an ad in, that would be tough to connect with those consumers. But with fast services, we love ads. We utilize that inventory quite a bit for our own CTV ads, and so I don't think there should be much concern around that because consumers do want free solutions just like anybody else. There's a balance of they're willing to pay for premium content, and they're willing to supplement that with free content.
Okay, so you're not seeing a dramatic shift?
No, I don't. I think there are customers who care and want to have no ads, but it's not overtaking the market. And there are enough partners out there who are just purely ad-based, like Pluto, that are, have tons and tons of content.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just build on just more specifically the Paramount Plus? So Pluto we get, but Paramount Plus, that platform, how is that playing out between limited ads and no ads?
Sure. So I'm not a CFO and it's not a Wall Street call, so I can't give you that exact answer. But there's a balance of consumers who are paying for the premium service versus those who have a limited commercial.
Any more questions? Yeah. One in the back.
Are you seeing trends in the type of programming or content that's holding subscribers over time as opposed to picking on something to watch?
Sure. So without divulging any specific information, we have one which is an award show, and the award show spikes, particularly with young adults. But we quickly learned those aren't going to be our necessarily long-term customers. So quick award shows, great for short-term, maybe not the best long-term. So we are looking at our different vehicles of content. We look at models around what's bringing them in, how long did they stay, how many times a week they're actually watching shows, and what particular aspects of the genre might entice someone to stay longer. So if you think about series, are going to obviously lead to an extended period of time for that customer versus a one-day opportunity. But even the NFL, of course, you have 16 or so weekends, and there's consistency with that audience. So I can't give you a specific answer, but we're clearly looking at that. And I would say the only one-offs are those music award shows.
Well, Damon, I want to thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and your story with us as we discuss the future of innovation, as it related to media strategies and trends. Ladies and gentlemen, Damon Mercadante, VP of Marketing and Streaming Services at Paramount.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.